Yeah, it's a decades long problem, and the frustration I think that is being felt across this. One more reason for the crisis of confidence is that over the last 2-3 decades, as a system, as a nation, we really haven't moved the dial on transfer, which is a travesty. In fact, there was a couple of recent articles you might have seen in Inside Higher Ed that said, maybe we should just stop kidding ourselves that we are focused on improving transfer and just say this is it and be done with it. 15% of students transfer effectively and get a baccalaureate degree when 85% actually want to do that. That number hasn't changed a great deal. Even when we worked with the Minnesota system, we're talking about 12 or 13%. And that had stayed constant for well over 20 years. So, some of the core issues, there is the issue of credit mobility. There is the issue of asymmetric information. What I'm taking, does it really count or not? Those two at the core are some of the most significant challenges. But I think the others that have surfaced over the years, and certainly in my experience, is the sense that students, and I don't think we should dismiss this, students who start at a community college, and I'm making a bit of a generalization here, have a sense of, am I really ready for the big 4-year school? The community college is just down the street for me. I can just go there less, under the radar a little bit, not a big deal. But am I ready for the big school, right? Am I ready for that? And I think when they step foot on a community college, even though they have an aspiration of growth, there isn't that sense in their minds that they are ready and that they have a sense of confidence they can do that. I think it's up to us, and when I say us, meaning both the community colleges and the 4-year institutions, to start building that mindset in the students. Yes, you belong. This is how we're going to help make sure that you're going to work hard, of course, but this is how we're going to make sure that there is a warm handoff and that you're not going to see the difference between your starting point here and your ending point here. And there are various ways that you can do things that can help along the way, whether it is direct admission for the students. I made this, there was a meeting I was at and somebody asked me, well, what's a bold idea you could come up with? Something to do with career. There was a new master plan in California around career education. In California, you can start taking a community college course in the 9th grade, part of dual enrollment, which I think is there in many, many states now. So in 9th grade, you have the ability to start taking college level courses. And the vision right now in California is that by the time you finish high school, you should have completed at least 12 credits of college level work. Great model when it's done well, so that now you already are on that pathway to college and beyond. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if we sent a letter to every starting 9th grader that said, congratulations, you are now on your pathway to X community college and this university, and your journey starts today. That at 9th grade, it's in their minds, oh, I'm going to go to college. This is just the first step. It's a little taste, but then we build in experiences along the way that will essentially make sure that pathway continues, including a pathway to a career. Because again, there's nothing that says it shouldn't start at 9th grade. So the idea that we have to instill in them. So you asked about the major barriers to transfer. Credit mobility, lack of the asymmetric information, sense of belonging, and this question that still, this blurring lines between, so the University of California, Riverside and Riverside Community College just is going to open a brand new dorm this fall, where they're going to have students from the community college commingled with students from UC Riverside to even further eliminate this notion that, oh, I'm a community college student and you're a UCR student. We're in the same dorm. We have access to the same, we're rooting for the same team. We're going to be part, not that the teams are very good, but we're part of the same ecosystem now. And so it starts building that confidence, because as we know, for so many of the students, that notion of, can I even do it? Do I even belong? Is still a major roadblock. And I think if we keep keep instilling in that sense of confidence and eliminating those barriers. It is just by design that it's going to happen. Yeah. I think that we call them education deserts, right? That there are places that don't have, and it goes back to the point I made earlier. Given the importance of universities as community anchors, the fact that there may not be a four-year university in driving distance or commuting distance can be a major roadblock. And in the minds of students who are in those regions, it's like, well, that's just too far-fetched. If I have to go 100 miles or 200 miles to go to a four-year institution, that becomes very low on my priority. I think in this day and age, with technology, the way it is leapfrogging all those constraints, I think it's our responsibility to find unique ways in which we make access possible, whether it's through immersive, online, state-of-the-art. This is not 20 years ago when you offered what used to be called correspondence courses. Online is very different now. It's extremely interactive. It can be extremely fulfilling. And so I think there are ways in which you could do that and sprinkle in some hybrid experiences so that the students still feel a sense of community and engagement, whether it's with local companies or whatever. So I think it has to be a recognition. Are we serving the needs? Being in the Inland Empire is a classic example of cases where the geography is so different. There's lots of opportunities in the urban core in some ways, but for a population of 4.7 million people, to only have 2 public universities is a challenge. There are parts that, I mentioned to you, there are parts of the Inland Empire, they're closer to ASU than they are to a 4-year public university in California. This is where I think thinking about collaboration, thinking about not being so turf-minded and saying, look, let's think about the region and students and families. Ultimately, when we lift up the regions and families, we all benefit. There has to be that sense of urgency that it's somehow, we're in this collective. We're not just competing against each other. And I think that sense of community and collective idea is so leadership dependent that unless leaders really are trained to think that way, it doesn't happen automatically. You think of yourself as being this silo and this island. I want to compete with anybody else. I want to be the best, but you don't automatically think about the fact, well, let's think about what's best for the region, and then align our activities and our collaborations in that way.